South Asian weddings are not simply 2-hour events. They're multi-day affairs, like a limited series on Netflix.
I have befriended so many aunties and uncles just because like we're, vibing out to the same songs, or they'll be like, oh, beta, teach me this dance step and stuff like that. And it's just such a good way to break the ice.
I love that. Like, I love the fact that songs and the visuals from those songs can really paint a picture of what that traditional wedding looks like.
Hello, and welcome back to Two Tickets Please, the #1 trending podcast on my list. I'm your host, Nalin, and today, take a deep breath with me, because we're about to dive deep into the world of music, but not just any music. We'll be unwrapping the layers of music at South Asian weddings. We're going to be asking the important questions like why they are the heartbeat of wedding celebrations, what cultural impact they have today, and even whether Kendrick Lamar can feature on South Asian wedding playlists. Now, if you're about to click away and listen to Drake, hold up. You don't need to know anything about South Asian music to enjoy the chat today, so stay with me, hold my hand, and don't let go. At some point in your life, you're going to be attending a South Asian wedding, or shall I say, Desi wedding. So consider this episode a cheat sheet for you, because you are not alone. In fact, I'm not alone either. I'm joined today by two guests who, at this point, deserve a master's in attending South Asian weddings. My first guest's favorite movie is the 2013 Indian flick Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, which presents a bouquet of vibrant wedding-appropriate songs. So that kind of makes her an expert in the field. She's also somewhat of an expert on me, having known me longer than anyone else has, which is not directly relevant, but could be useful to know. Welcome to the show, my sister, Smrit.
Yay! Hello. Thank you for having me. It's been a while though since you've asked me my favorite movie, and that has changed. Although Ye Jawani Hai Diwani is still on top of the list, so we might get into that a bit later.
Okay, and what is your favorite movie now then?
I think Rocky Aur Rani Ki Prem Kahani from 2023 has topped the list now.
Okay, another one which has got a lot of good wedding songs, so I think it's still a good fit. But Smrit, I do want to ask you, I know you've been an avid watcher of talk shows like Coffee with Karan for many years, right? I bet you've even mapped out your answers to hypothetical rapid fire rounds. So how does it feel today to finally make your talk show debut on a podcast which some say is better than Coffee with Karan?
Oh, well, I'm absolutely privileged because, to be honest, I was expecting an invitation from the start of the podcast, but it's obviously taken 6 episodes, and I believe this is the 7th one for me to get an invitation. So I'm not sure if that says more about you or more about me, but anyway, I'm very privileged to have finally made it on. And I think, I have prepared some really solid answers like I would have done on Coffee with Karan, and I'm hoping this is kind of my debut into the world of entertainment and talk shows. So I'm sure this will help me achieve great heights.
Well, I mean, if I'm playing Karan Johar in this scenario, then I'll be the flag bearer of nepotism, and obviously I've got my sister on here, so I think I'm a perfect fit for that role too. Now, the second guest today, Smrit, is someone you and I have known for many, many years, right? She is a creative soul. She's a filmmaker, and she also moonlights as DJ Doddy. Welcome to the podcast, Jyot.
Thank you so much. Sometimes I regret the name DJ Doddy. Like when someone says it out loud, I'm like, damn it, that's the name that I'm stuck with.
So let me ask you then, please enlighten us. How did you come up with Doddy as your DJ name, and was it a result of autocorrect?
It was my dad lah. Who else? Well, my nickname at home is Dodi. And, yeah, now the whole world knows that. But basically, my younger brother couldn't say Jyot Didi when he was a kid. So it turned into Dodi. And it has just, my dad just took it and ran with it. And now I am DJ Doddy. And there's no turning back.
Absolutely. And what's the difference between DJ Doddy and Jyot? Is there any sort of personality shift that we might experience?
I think it's like an alter ego type thing.
Nice.
You know how you have like Beyonce and then her alter ego is Sasha Fierce? I think DJ Doddy is like a little edgier, let's lose a little more. And then Jyot is just kind of like, okay, let's cruise through life, but get shit done.
Excellent. Well, I'm so privileged to have Beyonce on the podcast with me. So I think what a star-studded lineup we've got already. So this is excellent. Now, just to set the scene, tell me roughly, both of you, how many Desi weddings would you have attended in, say, the last 12 months?
12 months. Okay, that's easier. I thought you were going to ask in my life, and I was like, that's going to take a while to do some math. 12 months, I think I've attended 2. Yeah, not that many. I think 2.
I've done 3. Yeah,
Okay.
bit of a slow year.
Yeah, it feels that way, right? Because there have been years where you've got like 3 weddings a month even. Like that's pretty common for that to happen. Of the weddings that you've attended, how heavily did music feature in these weddings?
Yeah, I think music is I think it's really central to any wedding that generally is from kind of a South Asian background. So it could be like an Indian wedding or a Sri Lankan wedding, which is generally the weddings that I tend to attend, a majority of the ones that I tend to attend. So I think music always forms a feature. It's actually quite an integral part. And we may not always think about it when we're planning a wedding, like on the same level as we might think of catering or decor or something like that. But I feel like you can't have a South Asian wedding without music, because it's not just around like the performance music, but it's around the background music. It's obviously the entry. So there's so many types of role that that music plays in these weddings. So yeah, I think it features really prominently.
Yeah. I mean, one could say that music is the strongest love language for South Asians, which actually, no, I totally disagree with, because that's definitely food. I mean, you can maybe have a Desi event without music, but you can't have an event without food, right? That's impossible. Anyways, I digress. There's no denying, right, that music plays a huge part in the lives of people in the subcontinent, and so naturally it also plays a big part in their wedding celebrations. But why do you think that is? Why is music so important to a South Asian wedding?
I think there's something about music that, I mean, universally, it just brings people together, right? Whether or not you understand what's being said. But I think Bollywood music takes it to like a whole other level, because, you know, for most of us South Asians, we've kind of grown up listening to a certain set of songs. And I could have just met you at a wedding. You could be from like, you know, halfway across the world. But the moment we both know the lyrics to like Balam Pichkari, we're best friends. And like, I think it also goes beyond age. Like I have befriended so many aunties and uncles just because like we're, you know, vibing out to the same songs, or they'll be like, oh, beta, teach me this dance step and stuff like that. And it's just such a good way to break the ice.
You know, in India in particular, like there's so many different regions, right? So while like up north, generally music plays a big role in a wedding because there's multiple events for a wedding, right? You have your henna night, then sometimes you have what's called a sangeet, which is like a musical night, and then the wedding ceremony, the reception, and there might be a couple more in between that. In the southern part of India, typically they might not have as many events, but then they have like the ceremony is obviously really, really big, and then you have the reception and things like that. So I feel like depending on obviously what the event is, the way the music is chosen also differs. And so I feel like music kind of really guides the tonality of an event in a particular way. So if it's like a sangeet, which is like purely dedicated to music and dancing, you're going to pick songs that, you know, will allow the guests to kind of get on the dance floor. But if it's a ceremony, you don't want people dancing on the dance floor. You want them to obviously, you know, let the bride and groom have that beautiful ceremony that they've wanted to have. So the choice of music will be different. So I think, yeah, it really helps set the mood and the tonality, I think, of wedding events as well.
Yeah, so true. I almost also wonder if music becomes a conduit through which people express emotions at a wedding. So when you're in a tender moment of a wedding and you hear a very beautiful or delicate song come on, it kind of projects the kind of emotion maybe one should be feeling or one wants to feel. So it almost, it takes us on this journey of feeling happy, feeling joyful, feeling at times quite vulnerable as well. And music kind of is like that soundtrack, right? It's the undercurrent to the various emotions that one might experience at a wedding. And yeah, really good point about a South Asian wedding being not like essentially a compilation of many events. It's not just a standalone thing, right? South Asian weddings are not simply 2-hour events. They're multi-day affairs. They're like a limited series on Netflix, right? Episode 1 is like a religious ritual. Episode 3 is a choreographed dance battle at a Sangeet. Episode 6 is just people gossiping in the corner at a reception or something.
That should be 3 episodes, by the way.
That should be 3 episodes. You're right. There's a lot of content.
Yeah.
And each event features music in some way or another. Now, Smrit, you mentioned that there were like, there's the Mehndi night, or there's like the Sangeet. Do you think that there are subgenres of wedding music that match like the different kinds of events over the course of a wedding?
I mean, I think for me, with the music, like the primary objective I think that music plays is really around nostalgia and emotions, which is what you just touched on as well. So I think the subgenre is really around, like, I think the lyrics actually make a really huge difference when you choose songs for a wedding. Again, depending on the purpose, right? But I think that kind of really dictates the way that you get the feeling, or what the couple kind of resonate with as well. Like, you get to almost know them a little bit better in that way. So I don't know if there's really subgenres of music, but I think the way that the music is used, I think, can really paint a picture. You might like Jyot, you mentioned Balam Pishkari, right? And that's a really popular song that is actually not a wedding song per se. It's a song that was celebrating another Indian festival called Holi. But that song has become so prominent at weddings because that's what's used for like party, fun, joyful, that sort of vibe, right? And so I feel like, if a couple has that, they're obviously going to choose to have that at a particular sort of wedding event. So I think it really, kind of gives that sort of guide on what they like, what sort of music the couple likes, even the events that they have, like how they want that to turn out. So I don't know if there's necessarily subgenres, but I feel like the song can play roles in forming that theme of the wedding.
Like you mentioned, there's a Mehndi night or there's a Sangeet, which are generally more festive. So the songs you might choose there are more upbeat, more dance, dance appropriate. Then when you come to the wedding ceremony, how does that shift? What kind of music would you choose at a wedding ceremony?
I feel like it's kind of background music, right? Because the main thing that's going on is the wedding itself. And to be honest, I've never really noticed music at a wedding ceremony. And of course, like, different religions do it very differently. Yeah. Smriti, now I'm trying to think about your wedding. Like, I remember the ceremony itself. It was beautiful. And I feel like I can hear some music, but I can't quite describe it. I don't know.
It might have been the sound of people going for snacks. I don't know if you remember that.
Again, see, it's the competition between music and food, right? So, yeah, but in the case of music at a ceremony, I think it's the bridal entry and the groom's entry that, like, I think that's where music is really important. Because when they make their, kind of when they walk down, well, with the groom anyway, he kind of usually is walking in with quite an entourage. With the bride, obviously she'll have, a few people that she walks in with, but it's a little bit more serene and a bit more calming. And generally people stand up for the bride's entrance. With the groom, depending, it can be a bit different. So I think that's where I tend to remember songs from a bridal entry. And I think something that really influences that, in my opinion, is actually the visuals from a Bollywood song. So there are like some typical Bollywood songs that have gotten really popular, say in the last couple of years. And if you're happening to get married a few months after that, you might end up picking a song that's trending, right? And I think it's the visuals that are set in that song that ultimately also sometimes can influence the look. So I think yeah, in a ceremony, I think it's the entry, not so much for the rest of the ceremony, because there's background music and all of that. But I think that's not meant to be noticed. But if it was pin drop silence and if it was just the priest, I think you would definitely notice that. So I think music still really plays an important role there.
I'm curious, when you got married, Didi, what was your thought process when choosing like your bridal entry song?
Yeah, for me, so because I was getting married, like my husband's South Indian, so I think for me it was important to find a song that represented both our cultures. So having like me being Sindhi, which is North Indian, him being Tamil, which is South Indian, our languages obviously are quite different. And while both of us, converse in English, but like in terms of a wedding ceremony, it was a Hindu ceremony, but I wanted to find a way to kind of bring that together. And so the song I actually chose is from a movie called Two States, which is the song that the actress in the movie enters with at her wedding, which is towards the end of the movie. And so I found that was really appropriate because Two States is actually around the similar sort of thing where the groom is from North India and he's Punjabi and the bride is South Indian, she's Tamil, and there was a song which is in Tamil, but I feel like it just really represented it really beautifully. So that's the song I chose for mine. But I think if I were to get married now, I would be choosing one from Rocky or Rani because that is my favorite movie. And there's a song called Kurmai, which has gotten really popular. And so I think it's the visuals that really would guide my choices now.
Interestingly enough, even in Rocky and Rani, they're from like two separate states.
Yeah, they are. They are. What would you say is your favorite like bridal entry song? Do you have one?
No.
That's all right. You don't have to. You don't have to have the answer right now.
Yeah, no, I haven't thought about it very much, but a song that really has my attention for like the past year is Babi by Eden Shalif. It's that. Oh, should I sing? I can't sing. I'm gonna try.
Go for it.
Teri veera shagan karegi, na shagana di na 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 mehndi da.
Oh, I haven't heard this one.
You guys haven't? It's all the English clubs are playing it too. I'll send you a link.
Oh, okay. Put it on the list, please. Yes.
Yeah,
I
clearly
will.
we're a different generation to you because I haven't gone to a club in God knows how long. So
Okay, when I have my club debut, I'll make sure that we're in the same city and then you can come.
sounds great.
But yeah, I choose that song because it's fairly catchy. You can dance to it, but it's actually like a Punjabi boli, which is again kind of like paying homage, and I like having that. I guess that nostalgic touch to it.
Yeah, and that's actually a really important point because wedding ceremonies, like we were talking about, they'll have background music. And yeah, sometimes you need them because when you have music and then music gets pulled away, you notice the difference, you notice the silence. But culturally different kinds of weddings will have different music to sort of honor the tradition or heritage of that culture. So I know, for example, in South Indian weddings, it's quite common to have nadaswaram, right? Where you have live instrumentalists playing instruments like something similar to a shahnai, or maybe it's kind of like a mridangam. And it's just meant to sort of fill the silence, but I think there's also maybe some religious significance to that music, to please the gods, as it were. So that almost features quite extensively in different, I suppose, cultures of weddings. And then on the wedding day itself, if there's like a meal, a lunch or a dinner, I find what happens very often is we, and I say we as in just the general populace of South Asians, we tend to play what I call Indian restaurant music. So you know exactly what I'm saying, right? When you go to an Indian restaurant, you always hear usually romantic songs.
Yeah.
Arjit Singh has made a career out of these. But they're songs that play at an unusually loud volume at restaurants and kind of take over all conversation. But they play in the background at weddings too. And I guess the intention there is to be a very loving and very sort of romantic atmosphere to set that. So yeah, I find that very interesting. I think it's very unique to Indian culture to have music at that level playing when we're eating. But again, we're bringing two loves together, music and food go hand in hand. What I find really interesting is I don't know if it's as popular anymore, but traditionally there was always this vidai or farewell ceremony that would happen in weddings, and there would be songs specifically for that occasion. And those songs tend to be sad songs. Do you ever find them out of place?
I mean, they're only ever played during the farewell itself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I haven't personally been through that experience yet, but from whatever I've witnessed, it feels like songs like that really bring out the emotion in maybe some of the more reserved family members. So, for example, a bride's father is obviously very emotional during her wedding, but he's also got so many things to look after and guests to entertain. And it feels like during that bidai, when that song comes on, that's when the poor uncle just breaks down. And not gonna lie, I watch a lot of these videos. I'll be in my room and I'll be like, oh no, the poor uncle. And it's almost like you need something to kind of trigger that release of emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes you just kind of have the groom, kind of waiting in the car, I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
Yep. The awkward wait. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I haven't actually been for a wedding in the last few years where there's been actually a ceremony for the bidai or the send off. Because it's so different now, right? I mean, generally, the couple might be living in a different country already, or the bride might be somewhere else, and kind of they've just come together for the wedding. So in the case of my wedding, my parents live overseas. Well, Nalin and my parents live overseas, and so even though our wedding was in Australia and they don't live here, so it's weird to kind of have that bidai, because yes, you're I guess the significance is that the bride is entering a new family, but I feel like it's a bit different now to really think about it in that way, just because of circumstances and lifestyle. But I feel like it gets dramatized a lot more in movies, and especially movies from say the 90s. You have your Hum Aapke Hai Kaun, which was a big movie in the 90s, or even Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, which is another really big one. So I think in these two movies, those kind of things are made a lot more prominent, because it was probably a bit more current to that time, but now not as much. So I wouldn't actually think about a bidai song. What I would think about is the social media song, because I think that's maybe what's kind of come in in modern age, where now, at weddings, there are actually dedicated people who will be filming content to put on social media. And so music that goes with that, and for example, what goes with the highlight reels, is so much more important than actually, I think, the music even at the ceremony or at the wedding events, because it's all about what goes up on Instagram, which is just such a change, right, in how things work now. Because now often you find that people might have a wedding reel or something, even just a few hours after their wedding. While back in the day, you had to wait for those photos in the anticipation of that. So it's just a different time now. So I don't know if the bidai is as relevant as social media is now.
Yeah, that's a good point. And often when we look back at videos captured of a wedding, whether they be on social media or otherwise, the music that's playing there often forms a crucial part of our memory of that wedding experience, right? So even if it's, I'm watching a wedding dance performance back, I remember that music that was used, and I start to associate that music to that wedding experience. And same thing applies for highlight reels or anything of that kind. But it's really interesting you bring up movies as being such a key factor in this, because, yeah, that's quite true, right? Songs that are played at weddings are typically sourced from movies in South Asia. And at times we're literally seeing the beats of a movie play out over the course of a wedding. So in a way, it's almost like film music directors are essentially supplying tracks for weddings, right? Now, I believe that in addition to fitting the story of the film, music labels and music producers are quite wary of how a song can be marketed and replayed for years to come. So when it comes to wedding-themed music, who do you think they're really targeting? Is it couples? Is it the general public? Is it social media to be sort of trending on social media? Like, who are they making wedding songs for, really?
I think they're making wedding songs for it to become viral. Like, I think now, in the day and age of being on social media, I think the first launch of a song is always on social media. Even before it hits your screen, there's a teaser or there's, something that's put on social media. That's generally at least the first place I tend to find out about new songs or new tracks or new movies. So I feel like if you get noticed there, then the chances of your song becoming more popular and actually being used at weddings and other events, I think the chances are higher, because it starts creating that curiosity on social media. I mean, I do still think that the audience for wedding songs are couples, because I mean, again, if you are a fan of, say, Bollywood movies, or if you have followed those, you might refer to that in terms of choosing the music for your own wedding. I mean, that's what I did. But I think different to when I was choosing it, though, I didn't necessarily go with the songs that were kind of trending on social or trending on the playlist. I kind of went with the songs that I liked. But I feel like now what you like is also becoming so blurred, because there might be like, there's so many songs that sometimes I listen to and I'm like, oh, like I don't really think much of it, and then that goes viral or that becomes a really big hit, and then I go back to it and then I'm like, oh, actually I like the song. So I'm like, do I actually like it, or is it just dictated by social pressure that I didn't realize I was falling into?
Do you think overexposure just makes you like a song? Like, if you see it over and over again, are you sort of forced to have an affinity to it? Or can you resist the temptation of like, I'm not going to add this to my playlist even though everyone else is listening to it?
I think it can definitely grow on you. And I'll admit there are some songs where I've heard them so much, I don't like them enough to add them to my playlist. But if it's playing somewhere, I'm going to sing along, I'm going to vibe out.
Yeah.
And I think like the thing with so much of, so many of these wedding songs is that I think a lot of us South Asians, maybe people from other cultures as well, just listen to them on a daily basis. So I never actually see it as Desi or like Indian wedding songs and then non-wedding songs. To me, it's all just kind of clumped together. And maybe it's because, the whole culture the whole wedding culture that we've built is so significant to our actual culture that, I don't know, there's just so much overlap.
Yeah, that's really true. As a DJ, though, I don't know if you've ever played a wedding.
I have not.
how would you go about it? So how would you go about choosing songs to include in your mix or your set?
Well, I think if you're being hired to play someone's wedding, it's very important to, just sit down with the bridegroom and kind of figure out their tastes and what they want the tone to be like for each event. And then after that, there are always some like crowd favorites that will work wherever you go. So I imagine it's just a mix of like what the client wants and what's tried and tested. And then, if you're feeling cheeky, you can probably try a few new things, but you don't want to take too much of a risk on someone else's big day.
I do feel like, especially with like Bollywood songs, you will always tend to, I don't know if this is for everyone, at least for me, if I had to pick, say, a playlist for a wedding, right? I would generally go back to like 90s and early 2000s music. Like, I feel like, right? I feel like after that, like there's been a lot of music, but nothing tends to stick like it did when you had Mahi Ve, right? Like Mahi Ve is now how many years old? At least maybe 15, 20 years old.
I think it's 2003, I think. So yeah, probably 20 plus years.
So over 20 years old. And that song, I think, will always make an appearance generally at like a full-fledged Indian wedding, like one which is full of music and song and party. I think Mahi Ve will always be there. But I don't think I found something that's as good as Mahi Ve that's come in like the last 5-10 years, right? So yeah, so I feel like with music as well, we kind of just had like the heart of wedding music in the 90s and 2000s, and now there's bits and pieces. You'll get your songs every now and again, which will be added to your playlist, but it doesn't have the same appeal and the same nostalgia and the same feeling as those songs from that time.
I mean, we are 90s kids, so there's obviously an inherent bias here. I mean, I'm sure if we asked our parents, they would be like, oh, but the 70s. The 70s was where it was at, you know? And similarly, I wonder if today, you know, kids who are born in the 2000s, for them, the 2000s and 2010s are maybe their era. But I mean, it's just interesting because I definitely agree with you, Smrit. Like, the 90s and 2000s for me are also what I considered like those really nostalgic and those songs that have lasted such a long time. What do you think adds that quality to a wedding song? What makes it memorable? What makes it long lasting?
I think something Smrit Devi said earlier makes a lot of sense. You associate the visuals of the song very strongly. And because so many Bollywood films, especially when it comes to the song and dance, you know, they're like a little over the top, it really makes an impression. Like the way the hero enters, you know, you've got like your hero heroine in the middle, and then you've got like 100 backup dancers, and everyone is just like dressed to the nines. So I think that association is just so strong for a lot of us. And I'm guessing, you know, or at least for myself, like when I am dancing to Bole Churiya, in my head, I'm Kareena Kapoor.
Absolutely.
There's also that like aspirational side to it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like the songs that are a bit dreamy, right? That kind of like, especially if you say haven't entered that phase of your life yet, you know, you might be kind of thinking in your future, if marriage is something that you would like to have in your life, you might be kind of picturing what you want it to be, you know, how you want it to be. And music, I think, really helps guide that. Like, I know, like when I was planning my wedding, like I was thinking of visuals from different Bollywood movies, and that was helping me decide what I liked and what I didn't like. So I think that it plays such a big role in choosing music, and what makes it really good is, yeah, exactly that. It's the visuals that influence it, but ultimately the nostalgia and the connection and what it kind of, you know, the emotions that it brings out in you, I think really makes a good South Asian wedding song.
Yeah. And I think to add to that, I would say dance moves are critical. I know this comes under the same realm of visuals, but especially for, you know, having a dance performance at a South Asian wedding is like, you know, bread and butter, right? It happens all the time. It's a requirement. And often dance performances are done by family members and friends who may not be professional dancers. So the moves that can be done by them become critical to the choice of songs. So honestly, a lot of the songs that we might end up listening to and dancing to are ones that we remember the hook steps to, or the ones that we can sing along to, because those inherently become points of connection. And it sort of expedites this process of, hey, you're vibing, I'm vibing, ice is broken, let's party, right?
Can I tell you what's extremely frustrating is when at weddings, right, when say songs are chosen for the dance performance, right, and you'll naturally have like a couple of people who'll be choreographing or who'll be leading that, right? So they pick, say, a really iconic song which has got like iconic dance steps, and then they don't do the hook step, and you're like performing, right? You're like performing as part of that song, and all I want to do is do the hook step because that's how it's meant to be, and it's just so unnatural when you can't do that. Yeah, that's just really frustrating. So this is my big call out to everyone who's watching this. If you're going to pick iconic Bollywood songs for your dance performance at a wedding, please do the hook step.
All right, public service announcement.
Now we can move on.
Oh, can I just add on? If you're nervous about dancing, just remember the 5 S's. Smrit, says, shake, smile, sing.
Oh, I love how this is carried through since you were what, like 8 years old?
Like 6.
6? Yeah, so this is carried for a good like 20 years of your life. So I'm glad I had such a profound impact on your dancing.
Didi, you have no idea how many people I've told that to. I'll be like, guys, shake, smile, sing. That's it. You will get through. And it's fantastic advice because as much as, yes, we want to perform and, like nail the steps, we also just want to have fun.
Yeah, that's the formula, right? It's the formula for having fun and still doing the hook step. That's very important to make sure we do the hook step. So let's add that to the list. It's not as attractive as, having another S there, but I think if you're going to pick a song, you have to do the hook step. There's a reason why Bollywood has made that viral for us, right? So let's make sure we use that.
I feel like I should give like a bit of context to anyone who's watching this. So I've known Smrit Didi and Nalin Bhaiya since I was a kid, like probably since I was like 3 or something. And, back in Taipei, we used to have like a Diwali ball every year, and it was hands down the highlight of everyone's year. And Smrit Didi used to teach me and a few friends how to dance. So every year she would like choreograph an entire performance for us. And we'd do like, multiple songs. We'd get our outfits ready. I remember a few times we would actually go to like some of those fabric markets, like a bit far out in Taipei. And your mom used to take us and we'd have like, practices after school. And it was just like the best time.
So much fun. I think the best time of my life in Taipei when I was in school, for sure. It was always something we looked forward to every year. And I think that actually formed so much of our connection as well with the music, right? Because we found our love in music through those dance performances. Like, we may not have necessarily loved all the songs we were dancing to that much, but we kind of found like where we really connected, like what sort of vibe we had. And I think what's really special is that one of those songs, the first one, actually made it into one of the girls who was in the dance. It made it to her wedding.
Yes.
And so Jyot and her danced on that, and they sent me a video, and I was like, how special is this that music ultimately has carried our relationship through, even though we may not be able to talk every day or see each other that often. But that's the role that music has played, right, in keeping people connected as well. And I think that's how it does that at weddings, where you kind of take something from a memory from the past and bring it into your wedding, and then it kind of just connects those times of your life and those people in your life.
Oh, very well said. And that's a great example. Because literally, Jeannie and I did the steps that you taught us when we were like 6 years old. And I think on a whole, that's where my love for Bollywood music and dance started. So thank you.
Yeah, I think so. No, thank you. I think me too. I think that song, Pia Pia, that song is really iconic for us. Yeah.
And you remembered the steps, or did you have to watch a video about it?
Oh, no.
Steps.
Yeah. You
Wow.
won't forget the steps.
Churi khan kere.
There's a whole dance performance happening now. This is no longer just a podcast. This is now like a visual demonstration of a dance. It's a dance class in motion.
Excellent. It's a variety show. I can hard relate, Jyot, because I have also been a student of Smrit's dance classes as a child. Not for as glorious occasions. Yeah, I think there was one off at Diwali ball that I did dance at, but oftentimes it would be private performances for the enjoyment of Smrit and my parents, really, more than anything else. But yes, I think the mantra that we've all distilled down, which is Smrit says, smile, shake, and what is it? Smile, shake,
Shake, smile, sing.
Oh, yes. Shake, smile, sing. And also, I know, I'm not a very good student. But I think that's really good life advice for most things as well.
Yeah, as you're walking down the street, just shake, smile, sing. Your life is great.
Actually, come to think it, that's the only way I'm getting by right now.
This is turning into a bit of a therapy session, which we did not plan to have.
We've talked about how there's all of these songs that we might choose from, right? There's no shortage of wedding songs for an occasion like this. So what are those songs? What are those classics that still feature in weddings time and again?
Maja Maja from Jab We Met.
Good one.
Another one with like a really great hook step.
Yes.
Mahive from Kal Ho Na Ho, which I mentioned earlier. I think Bole Churia, I think Jyot, you mentioned that. That's always been really popular. Say Shava Shava as well from Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum.
So a lot of Karan Johar influence here. I can see them. As the bespoke Karan Johar for this one, I'm quite pleased.
I think one thing that Karan Johar movies have done though is definitely influence your kind of large wedding sort of vibes, right? Like I mean, a lot of his movies do tend to have a big wedding moment. And they are generally very family oriented as well. So I do feel like the music from his movies are really monumental in informing kind of what wedding music will look like. So I don't know if that's a deliberate choice or it just happened to be that way. But I think if I watch a Karan Johar movie, I'm expecting that. Like I'm expecting the next wave of wedding music to come from his movies.
I think it even influences stuff like the fashion. I mean, there's like a very certain look that the actors and actresses have in a lot of his early 2000s movie and even like down to the makeup. And so I think it's very intentional and very curated. And he probably continues to do it because it works. Like even Rocky and Rani came out, 1.5 years ago. And it was really a throwback to a lot of his older stuff. And the film did so well.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, can I mention one more? It's been on the tip of my tongue. Galla Guria.
Yes.
I feel like that's
a great one.
It's one of the newer songs that actually really slaps.
For sure. It's great for the dance floor, that one. Perfect for the dance floor.
Yeah, I think just going back to, I guess, a bit of nostalgia, but from DDLJ, we have the Mehndi song, right? Mehndi Laga Ke Rakhna. So that, like, it's an older song, but I feel like it does tend to still be played. Like, if you think of a Mehndi song or a henna song, generally for me, that's the first one I'll think of. Even though I may not necessarily listen to it or use it all the time, but like the minute you say henna song, that's the first one. Because I don't know if there's been many others who have been as popular as that one, specifically for a henna song. There might be. But yeah, like a lot of wedding songs, but I think wedding songs that are for specific moments in a wedding, I don't think there are as many of those.
And so some of these songs that we've mentioned, right, because they feature repeatedly in weddings, and I'm sure you've heard them at the weddings that you've attended over time, are you growing tired of them? Are you kind of like, oh, this one again?
I think when it comes to really classic songs, like all of the ones that she just mentioned, I'm very happy to hear them again and again. But there are some songs like Desi Boys, which I'm tired of. Every wedding, you have the groom and 30 of his closest friends, and they're all doing the same Desi Boys.
Yeah.
That stuff gets a bit tiring, but I think also because it doesn't have that emotional anchor. It's relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
Theek hai na, let's do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with that. Like, I think some of the classics, I don't think I'll ever get bored of. And even with some of the recent ones, like I mentioned, like Kurmai, like I don't think I'll ever get bored of that just because I love the visuals and I love everything about that song. And I think it's just beautiful lyrics as well. But I mean, I think what's nice now, though, as something that I've noticed has become more of a trend, is along with obviously these songs that are coming from movies and things, a lot of couples are also choosing to compose their own music or curate their own wedding songs, at least for their entry. So, I mean, Nalin, you had that in your wedding when, when your wife entered that. You had composed the song or you'd sung the song. And I've noticed that in a couple of weddings more recently as well, that it's a lot more personal and it's a lot more authentic to the relationship that the bride and groom share with each other. And I think it's really nice that it's so personalized because while no one else necessarily will be able to relate to it, it's not about them at that moment, it's about the couple. So while obviously the music around from Bollywood movies and things like that will still be a big prominent feature in weddings, specifically more from like the dance floor music sort of vibe, I think it's really nice that we're seeing more of that personalization happening, especially for the entry. So I think that's one thing that I've noticed has changed. But I think if you take even like Bollywood songs in this typical sense, even if those are being used for an entry, something that I've noticed a lot more of now is that couples are entering by dancing. So brides are like walking their way in by dancing. And I think that's a Bollywood thing. Like Bollywood actresses have done that in the last few weddings. And so that's probably becoming a thing now. But, so they're taking songs, but they're kind of adding their own vibe to it. And they're kind of dancing their way in to perhaps a song that you might have heard 100 times, but it still feels unique and original and new because it's got a new look to it. So I think it's nice that now, even the same songs are being used in personalized ways. And I think that makes it more authentic. So I feel like I don't really get bored of seeing them if it's done in a way that's personal to the couple rather than it just being played as the song is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think what you're saying sounds like a lot of people who are choosing to get married today are using these songs as means of self-expression. Right? Rather than just sort of, oh, this is the song to play right now, so I should just play the song. There's more thought and there's more intentionality behind them, which is, I think, really nice to see because it gives us an insight as a guest at a wedding. It gives you an insight into who these people are. I mean, obviously, you probably know them to some degree, but it allows that moment or that special occasion to really be defined by their interests and their personalities, more so than what a movie has prescribed. Do you think as a result of this, we are seeing more Western music begin to penetrate into South Asian wedding playlists? Now, for example, like Kendrick Lamar, right? His recent Super Bowl performance it went viral. And so the moves that he did to Not Like Us were trending on Instagram and TikTok and whatnot. But I've also seen clips of weddings, both Western and Eastern, where people are doing the dance he did in his performance. And do you think this is just a drop in the moment where, oh, okay, someone's just taking a viral thing and adding that into their wedding in some form? Or is there a gradual shift to include more Western music at Desi weddings?
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot more Western music at weddings lately. And I think it just goes down to the couple's taste. And let's say it's like a Sangeet night and, for example, your dance floor opens at about 10 p.m. Now, this is a generalization of how, things go from 10 to maybe, 11:30, midnight. Everyone's dancing. And then slowly the uncles and aunties start to get tired. They start to sit down or head back. And then it's really just, the bridegroom and their friends. And then I feel like a lot more of the Western music comes out and it's always like a really good mix. And at that point, it's just like giving the people what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, just going back to the moments of the wedding, which are purely for the couple. So we spoke about like the entry, right? The other part that's purely about the couple is, say, if they choose to do a first dance at their wedding, which is, again, becoming a lot more popular now in Desi weddings as well. It's not really a part of, a wedding more so. I mean, this is obviously at the reception, but it's not something that we used to see even like maybe 15 years ago. But now generally at a reception, you will see the first dance, which is a Western sort of thing that has influenced South Asian weddings. So the song choice for that, again, is about the couple. And I would say, there might be, it's not necessarily necessary that it'll only be South Asian songs. There might be Western songs there as well. Another way I think is that actually, Jyot, you might be able to weigh in on this. I feel Punjabi music is getting a lot more popular, especially with someone like Diljit, who is now on a global stage. And so I feel like the amalgamation of Punjabi music with Western music is becoming more of a thing. I mean, you go to a club and you'll always hear Mundiya Tu Bach Ke, right? Like that's such an old song, but like you'll always hear that still. And so I feel like that's probably a bit more of the connection, which you'll find at weddings where there's Punjabi music and Western music kind of working hand in hand. Again, depending, like you said, on the couple's preferences, of course.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like even just within the sphere of Bollywood music, so much of it is derived from Punjabi culture and language. And weirdly enough, I don't even notice it at this point. Like it's such and even some songs like Mahi Ve, Se Shava Shava, Mojai Moj, Galla Guriya, they're all Punjabi.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I am only realizing this right now.
Glass shattering moments.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how do wedding songs allow us to connect with South Asian traditions and values?
A lot of these wedding songs tend to be very family oriented, either the way it's shot or its intended audience. And I think that is something that, like it comes through very strongly, especially because at a lot of weddings itself, you'll see, you know, the family come together, some grandparents, extended cousins, and it's just like a really great bonding activity, whether you're performing together or you're just kind of, you know, vibing out. And interestingly, I think songs can also kind of take you back and show you like a time that you never really knew. So, for example, if we look at a lot of Punjabi music nowadays, like it's catchy, it's super popular, but a lot of it is still about like, you know, cars and like girls in clubs and the guys with like their big guns and all of that. And
Yeah.
as we were speaking, I suddenly thought of this song from Love Ajkal, which came out in the 2000s. It's called Thoda Thoda Pyar. And I don't know if you guys remember what the music video looked like, but it was basically set in, I think, the 20s or 30s. So it was like a flashback sequence. And in that, you see, you know, someone's having something akin to like a little henna function. And the way that everyone is dressed, what the lyrics are actually saying, it's a little more, I guess, modest in a sense. And it's like more focused on the actual love between the bride and the groom and, you know, what it was like to be in love at that point in time. And it kind of gives you like a sneak peek into, oh, okay, like that's what it was like back then. And I don't know, it just gives me like this really random feeling of being connected to my roots.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite movies of all time is Jab We Met. And I love that in the first, the first act of the movie, you know, they're in this big koti, like this big villa type place in Punjab, and there's a wedding going on. And nowadays, so many weddings are like people do destination weddings, right? I think this was like the OG destination wedding where everyone stays in this big villa and it's usually like out of the city by a farm or something. And everyone's just there for a week and you live there, you dance there, the wedding goes on there. And something about it just feels so wholesome. And funnily enough, a friend of mine asked me very recently, where would be my dream wedding destination? And without thinking, I was like, Punjab.
Yeah, right.
And again, it's very aspirational, but I want that very traditional, very like old school sort of vibe. And I've never attended a wedding like that, but I know it because of the movie and because of the songs, which I didn't realize I aspired to that much.
Yeah, such a great point. I think family bonds, right? That comes through in music like this. Things like respect for elders, even maybe like an acknowledgement of divinity or God in songs is quite prominent in South Asian music and plays a big part in wedding ceremonies as well. And another really interesting thing I find is weddings give opportunities for folk songs to be played, right? Which allow us to reconnect to our heritage and to ethnic roots. I know as Sindhis, like we don't know many of them, but there's one or two that we hear that we'll hear at a wedding. Or, you know, in the case of like some Punjabi music, there'll be bolis, as you mentioned, Jyot, or there'll be maybe a garba at a Gujarati wedding. Like there's all traditional folk songs and dances, which we don't listen to at other times in our life, but a wedding allows us to reconnect with that. And for people who perhaps are now quite distanced from those ethnic roots, it gives us an insight back into it. We see our parents and grandparents and extended family connect with that, resonate with that. And it's sort of, that wholesome feeling really comes to the front of it. For me, I know a lot of it is just the instruments I hear. Like, I love hearing instruments like tabla, harmonium, sitar, shehnai. It just inherently makes me feel a bit more cultured listening to it. So, yeah, these like traditions and values are almost like carried through this vehicle of a song. In my view, anyways. Yeah.
And the dhol as well, right? Like when you hear a dhol playing, that's like such a significant sound for an Indian wedding, at least when like the procession is happening. But I love that. Like I love that the fact that songs and the visuals from those songs can really paint a picture of what like that traditional wedding looks like, and how it can take you back to those kind of cultural connections, that you may not have, yeah, you may not find in your day to day, but it kind of comes, becomes prominent, I guess, when you have a special milestone in a family member's life or in your life. I love that. I think, yeah, like if I could have chosen to do my wedding differently, I would love to be in like a palace in Jaipur, which is, which is where our dad's from. But like, I love that. Like, I love the whole like look of that like big Indian sort of like traditional building architecture, and, having that sort of vibe. And I think the only reason I'm even picturing that is because I've probably seen it in a song, or in a movie somewhere. So yeah, I love that. I love how it can just help us connect back to the traditional aspect. And I think that's the beauty of South Asian weddings, is that they're so authentic and they're so deeply rooted to their culture and their traditions. And every family will obviously bring their own personality and individuality to it. But I think that's what makes it so beautiful. And that's why so many people love dressing up and coming for a South Asian wedding. It's because it is a lot of fun with the dance and music, but there's so much meaning behind all of that. And I think, yeah, that's what's really nice to be able to represent through music as well.
And speaking of this cultural influence that music can have, I think there's probably another side of it that potentially holds true too. I think wedding songs can sometimes reinforce norms or stereotypes that maybe society has moved away from. So as an example, I know we spoke about something like Mehndi Laga Ke Rakhna. It's a classic, it's been playing for years. But when you listen to it back and you listen to the lyrics, it's like, it's propagating ideas of, well, the idea of a groom coming to take a bride away, or the reference of a bride being called as Gori, which means fair, and some other songs as well, like this recurring theme of, I'm going to come and take you away. I don't know if it holds true anymore. Yes, I get that traditionally a bride did leave her family home and move to another home. But in today's world, I'm not sure how applicable that is. We've also heard songs I don't know if you remember, there was a song in the movie Satya called Chalkare. And I think there's a line in that song which makes reference to, oh, you get married and then bring back like a child. As if that the purpose of this marriage is so that a woman can birth a child, So these are really nice, beautiful songs and compositions, but to what extent do you think they're reinforcing certain norms that, maybe are not so relevant?
I think similar to what we spoke about earlier with the bidai, right? Which is like a send off. Like, I don't think that really, as we kind of spoke about, is not as prominent now, because it's not really a send off of a bride. It's kind of the couple starting their chapter together, but it's on equal wavelength. It's not that the bride is leaving her home per se. I understand that obviously the significance of that during that time was that the bride was moving to another house, but yeah, it's not as relevant anymore. So I do agree that some of the things that perhaps were lines in those songs probably not as applicable now, but I feel like we can still enjoy those songs without actually getting too caught up in some of those specific references. I mean, now that I guess you've mentioned it, I'm probably thinking about it a lot more, but otherwise I probably would just dismiss some of that stuff and really take what I like from it. But I do feel like we have evolved, and obviously the music now has evolved with those times as well. So I think it's good that, along with lifestyle, like the music is able to support that cultural change as well.
Also, for what it's worth, if I'm at a wedding, I don't really pay attention to the lyrics because there's just so much going on. I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
good or a bad thing, but I never actually clock it in unless someone's told me this like beforehand.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I guess what I'd love to see is more wedding songs as always, but some that are more representative of our time and our lifestyle, which I think is potentially happening. But, you know, especially with more sort of mixed race weddings that happen or same-sex weddings that happen, you know, to have more songs that are inclusive of that, I think would be lovely because, I think the classics are always there, but it would be nice to add a few more hits in which make everyone feel a bit more included, perhaps.
I agree. I hope someone gets to that soon.
And I think we as consumers probably can drive a lot of that too. So when something does come up, our uptake of it probably can be quite influential in its acceptance. But yeah, I think coming back to sort of a big picture, we're flooded with options, right? When we're trying to curate a wedding playlist, there are almost infinite options. So we've actually got, to our listeners, we've got a little gift for you. The three of us have designed a playlist of wedding songs. In fact, we're calling it the ultimate South Asian wedding playlist. And it's for you, all of you listening who stayed along with us so far, you absolute legends. You can have this playlist for absolutely free. You'll find the link to the playlist in the description below, so you can start to get into the zone for the next wedding heading your way. And Smrit and Jyot, I want to say a huge, huge thank you to both of you for not only agreeing to be on the podcast and helping compile the playlist, but also indulging me in this chat because I genuinely had such a great time talking with both of you.
Me too. This is really fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I think it was a lot of fun, and actually it was a nice trip down memory lane as well. There was things that came up that I didn't expect or I didn't even think about. So I think that's really nice when, we all were able to connect since we've known each other for so long. So I think that was really nice. And I think lots to think about as well, like especially in terms of how music is shaping weddings now and in the future. I think some of those points are really good to think about. And ultimately, I'm noticing that at weddings, it's not a fixed formula anymore. Couples and families are kind of deciding what's working for them. And so similarly, obviously with music, they'll pick and choose what they like. So hopefully there is enough created that can be of choice and can be inclusive to everyone, like you said. So here's to many more amazing Bollywood songs that will be able to shape lots of different kinds of weddings moving forward.
And hopefully here's to many more episodes of the podcast that will continue to entertain everyone. So for the listeners, if you enjoyed our chat or the songs we talked about, or even just the lighting in my room, please hit like. It would go a long way. And share this with someone who's planning a wedding or also with someone who's not. Just start sharing, go nuts. And subscribe to the channel.
And if you want me back by popular demand, make sure you add that in the comments as well.
Yes, absolutely great shout. If Jyot and Smrit really vibed with you, comment below and we'll bring them back on the channel. But of course, you both are welcome to come back as always. And also follow us on Instagram at 2 Tickets Please Podcast for more fun and entertainment and maybe some little deleted cuts that were not in the episode. So we'll see what happens.
No. This wasn't in the deal.
So we'll sign off here and we'll see you next time. Bye.